It's up to you.
I mean.
All right. I'm putting in a request next time that I don't get the wobbly table.
Yeah. Here, lean it that way.
He's got it.
Pick it up just a little bit. Okay, pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah. Better.
Somewhat.
Better.
All right, thank you.
Better.
It's like the stender. You don't have to shuffle. You know, you
just move the stender.
It just needs one more napkin.
One more napkin.
If no one touches it, it's fine.
All right.
I'll grab it when I go in and get my coffee.
All right. So let's see. Where are we up to over here?
Chapter 1, I believe.
Actually, not yet. We are still in the introduction, but nice try. And just because we were in chapter 1 last week doesn't mean we can't go back.
I'll pick it up and fold it.
All right.
Lighter.
Yeah.
Lighter.
Okay.
Well, let's compromise. I think we're on chapter 2, so we'll go back to chapter 1.
There you go.
All right. So let's start again from Ach Mashid Starach. All right. So everybody has the same ones. Is that correct?
Yeah,
pretty much. Is that this one? Everybody's got pretty much. Okay. So let me
Page
find.
24. I think if everyone's got the same page in the second paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll share one.
Okay. You know what? I may as well. But this one doesn't matter.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Here, we got more.
Yeah, it's okay. We're good.
Good?
Thank you, Yochanan, for sponsoring.
Okay. Thank you for sponsorship. All right.
Thank you.
Rabbi Goldman.
Oh, Rabbi Goldman, I'm in. Rabbi Goldman, thank you for
You're
sponsoring.
welcome.
Yochanan, that was a hint.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right.
I ordered it, that's all.
Thank you.
All right. So, what the main things that we discussed so far in the introduction have been making sure that we understand that everything has a place. Parts are, by definition, parts of something bigger. Things that follow have something that they follow. Things that are causes have effects, vice versa. And we have to be able to analyze things and understand that those are important elements of what's going on whenever we're trying to understand something. So, what is necessary to know when it comes to knowing the rules is that you have to know the rules, and as he said last time, the rules are the main thing, not the details. The rules are more important to know. So those things, you need to understand them with all of their borders and all their different ways of applying. And even things that you find initially that don't seem to have any kind of outcome, meaning they don't really matter if there's this element of it, still, you have to be careful with it. You have to keep that difference in mind, even if you don't know of what practical difference that's going to make down the road. You have to recognize that if there is a difference, it's got to apply somewhere. There's got to be some reason for it, otherwise it wouldn't exist. You should think about them, put them on your heart. Don't ignore them. Chazal, as our sages have said, there is nothing big or small in the general that doesn't have some place, some outcome where it matters in the specifics. And that which you will not add or take away from some of the details, you have to realize it. When you're missing something in the rule, it can make a huge difference later on somewhere. So even if in the details that you are aware of, you don't notice anything really, but there's going to be other things, and then down the road it could make a very big difference. Klal, and by virtue of the fact that the rule is a rule, there has to be something in that rule that will apply to all of the details. So meaning to say, every detail has to be part of the rule. So therefore, there has to be a source for that detail in the rule somewhere. So if you're analyzing something and you find a detail that's not there, you can't figure out where that fits into the rule, then you have to reassess the rule. Because you've missed something in the rule, because the detail can't exist without it. So therefore you have to be extremely careful with this. And you have to really think about these concepts, where they come from, the kishrayim, the things that are connected to them, bedikta gadol, with exacting detail. Betivchan yafa yafa, and you should think very well about hamsheicham v'hishtal shalusam, the extent that they go to, and the things that they lead to, and how one thing leads to another, etc. How things go from one concept leads to another concept, from beginning to end, how it's all connected. Then you'll be successful, and then you will understand. So,
a rule for everything that has been created.
Yes.
Okay, and even the terrible things that we look at as being terrible.
Yes.
There's a reason. We might never know the reason, but there's a reason for it.
Correct. So what we're saying here is that in a very deep way, everything that exists, both physical existence, mental, whatever it is, everything that exists is all connected at its core, somehow. Everything came from Hashem, and that is the source of everything, and that's a single point. So everything has to connect in some way back to that original point. Now, very often it's difficult to see that connection, but it does all connect. And to take it a step further, the sages teach, Kala Torah Kula Chadahi. The entire Torah is one. Meaning to say that every element of Torah is also connected. And we know that the world was created through the Torah. People like to say the Torah is a blueprint of the world, right? It's really more than that, but at least that, we understand that everything is in the Torah. In order for something to exist, it has to be in the Torah. The analogy that Rabbi Tatz uses is if you have a light and you project that light through a film, and then there's a screen. So nothing can be on the screen if it's not on the film. It's got to be there, right? So Hashem is the light. That's the light that Hashem created, the force of creation. And Hashem, histakil ba'arais, he looked at the Torah and created the world. That looking we can kind of visualize as shining a light through it, and then it shows up in reality. So that reality is all within the Torah, and the Torah itself, kala Torah kula chada. The Torah itself is all interconnected. Every part of Torah is connected. And in a deeper way, the entire Torah is all connected to the Ten Commandments. Everything is contained within the Ten Commandments. And then in an even deeper way, the Vilna Gaon writes, all the Ten Commandments are included in the first of the Ten Commandments. So, without getting into how all that works, but the concept, what's the first commandment? Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God, meaning to say that everything somehow pulls back to that. Everything is that Hashem is God, He is the creator, He's the one who runs the world, everything that's happening, everything exists through Hashem, within Hashem, really. So understanding that will help us connect concepts. If we connect A to B, that means we're getting to the rule of what's above A and B. A and B are really products of something greater. So ultimately everything is all connected at that single point. Okay. All right, we good?
So
yes?
good.
Okay.
So good.
So?
So good. That's it. Got my coffee.
Oh, okay. All right, let's continue. Vehine, al pi hadavar ma'ela, and based on these things, chibarti lecha karanoim, I have written, authored for you, my dear reader, chibur katan zeh, this little writing, v'kivanti b'lahatzia lefanecha, my intention here is to set before you klalei ha'amunah v'ha'avodah al briyam, the rules that are necessary for belief in Hashem and the service of Hashem, that they should be clear. Ba'ofen, in a way, that you should be able to understand them properly. V'yitztairu b'sichlecha tzir maspik, and you'll be able to visualize in your mind an acceptable picture that will be understanding for you. Mutzo min ha'irbu v'mevucha, which will be saved from any kind of confusion and mixing of things. V'tira sharashayim v'anafeim v'madregais, and be able to see the roots and the leaves, the growth each in their proper level, bebeirur ha'afshari, to the highest level of clarity that we can possibly get to. Yashvu al libcha, that these things should settle in your heart, v'tikne oisam b'sichilcha, and you should be able to acquire them with your mind, b'muvcher shebepanim, in the best possible way. Misham v'hala, and then from then on, yekal l'cha limtzai das elikim, it will be easier for you to find the knowledge of Hashem, v'chol chelke ha-Torah perishah, through all the different elements of Torah and its explanations. V'lamed al kol stareha, and you'll be able to find all of the hidden elements, Derech Hashem lakecha sheyitan lach, as the blessing of Hashem that He will give. So, as he's saying, the goal of all of this is to be able to look at the Torah and understand it. Because the way to understand life is by looking at the Torah and understanding it. You know, there are the greatest sages are the people who were able to look at the Torah and see the past and the future and understanding why things are happening and how things are going to happen, because everything is contained in the Torah. So what he's saying here is that if we assess it properly and we're able to dissect it and analyze it the way it needs to be, we'll be able to get that level of understanding when we learn Torah. So if you think learning this book is sufficient, then you're missing the point. The point of this book is to help us understand how to learn Torah. So if you're going to stop here, then again, just like we learned about in the first week, stopping here is completely missing the boat. The point of this is to understand how to learn Torah. Once you know how to learn Torah, then you can start putting that into practice and making your life into a different life. V'hinei, nishtadalti l'sader hadvar b'sidr, shenir li'yaisim nais. I tried to put things in order in a way that to me seemed the easiest and the nicest. And using words that I thought would be the most appropriate, to give you a clear picture, a full picture, from these things that I have decided to try to help you understand. Al-Kain, therefore, gam ata, you too, ata now, tzarech ata l'daktek al-kol, you need to put in your work to be particular about all this, to try to be discerning. Lishmar es kol zeh shmira me'ula, and to guard all this with an excellent level of guarding, ad shetimsa makom sheyalach, until you find the way these things will help you. Val tevater al shum diktuk, and don't overlook or forego a single detail. Pen yisalim imcha inyan hechreicha, because you might then be lost from an important element. Rather, this is what you should do. Tadaktek al kol hamilos. You have to be discerning in every single word. And you should try to get to the bottom of the core of these things. And to make sure that you store all of the truths that are said here in your mind. And you will find for yourself the rest that you are looking for. Behold, I have called the name of this book the way of Hashem. Because this is including the ways of Hashem. Shegila lanu, that Hashem has revealed to us through his prophets. And He's let us know in His Torah. And it is with these ways that Hashem guides us and the entire creation. I have split it into 4 parts. The first part I will talk about the general rules and the bases, the foundations upon which the universe exists, and all the details, well, not all the details, but the details therefrom. The second part is it's understanding Hashem's connection to us. The third is the concept of prophecy. And the fourth is the service of Hashem. Va'ata, Achi, and you, my brother, kol mevakesh Hashem, anyone who is seeking Hashem, b'derech hazeh should go in this way. V'Hashem yiyeh imecha, Hashem will be with you. V'nasan lecha einayim lirais, v'aznayim l'shmaya, Hashem will give you eyes to see and ears to hear. Nifla'is mitayrasei, the wonders from His Torah. Amen. Kain yihirun. All right.
Whoa.
And with that, we complete our introduction.
Rabbi.
That last sentence.
Yes.
Doc, now we're up to chapter 1.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, we got a lot of doctors here. All right.
Did the
Everybody
Ram,
looks.
Sleeping Doc. No, that's not going to work either.
Nope.
All right.
Rabbi,
Yes.
the Ramachal wrote this.
Correct.
Is it, do people know how great a sage this particular individual was?
I don't.
It says that the Vilna Gaon said that he would walk from Vilna to where the Ramchal learned just to sit at his feet and understand what he was trying to say.
I thought he said he would run away if he got near him. He was scared of him.
He'd run away.
That's what I heard. All right. Whatever it is.
Derech Hashem.
Here we go. First chapter, chapter 1. All right. Cut it off, man. All right. Okay, here we are.
Go for it.
Chapter 1.
He's trying to stop us. Let's go.
Understanding what we know about Hashem. Call Ish Yisrael, every person, every Jew. Derech Hashem needs to believe, v'yeda, and to know. Sheyesh Sham Matzui Rishon. There is an original existence. Kadmain v'nitzchi. He is both before everything and is forever. Who shehimtzi, and he is the one who brought into being, umamtzi, and will continue to bring into being, kol ma shenimtzi b'metzias, everything that exists. Who alaka baruch hu, and this is referring to Hashem. Okay, so
This is rule 1.
this is number 1.
This is the rule.
This is
of
it.
all rules, right?
This is it. This is the number 1. So you have to understand. When we say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. You have to think about what that really means on a very deep level. And that doesn't mean by comparing it to anything. That means really thinking about what that means to be the supreme level of what it means to be one. So if you think about that deeply, you'll understand that being completely unique, being the only number 1 means that there's nothing else that can be compared. Because if there's a comparison, then you're not number 1. There's another number 1 that's comparable, or maybe it's a 1.2, but there's still some level of comparison. So being one, the ultimate one, means that there is nothing that can be compared. So understanding that Hashem is the ultimate one, Hashem Echad, means that by definition, everything else has to be a product of Hashem. Nothing can come from Hashem or be on the same plane as Hashem, because then Hashem wouldn't be one. So if you believe Hashem is one, that by definition means nothing else can have existed or can ever exist without Hashem. Which means that Hashem has always been, because time itself is a creation, and which means that Hashem will never end, right? Because then that's it. Doesn't make any sense, right? That's a paradox. And that also means that everything that exists is through Hashem. Now, we'll get to understanding that better as we go, but for this rule number 1, we just have to understand Hashem, by being the ultimate of oneness, means that there is nothing that can exist without Him. Yes?
You used the word paradox, and I wasn't sure what you were getting at.
Okay, if Hashem is the cause of all existence, then Hashem cannot cease to exist.
Say it one more time, please.
If Hashem is the cause of all existence, then Hashem cannot cease to exist.
Because then there would be no existence.
There would be no existence.
There'd be nothing left.
Why do you
Forget
call-
about nothing
why do you
left.
call it a
It's not even that.
Why do you
It's
call it
impossible for Hashem not to exist.
Why do you,
Hashem was never created to stop existing.
but
Hashem creates existence
why are you calling it a paradox?
because it would be circular reasoning. If it would be possible for Hashem to stop existing, then that would have to mean that something would cause that to happen. And if something causes that to happen, that means Hashem is not one again. So you go in a circle, it never ends, which means it can't be. Okay? So, yes.
So it sounds to me like you're saying there's this causal uniqueness, and then there's the first commandment, and then there are the 10 commandments, and then there's the light, and it's all sort of going through these separate filters. Is that including the?
I think you're kind of putting a bunch of different things together. Hashem is described in the Torah. So the uniqueness, Hashem himself, Hashem's existence, created the Torah. So he did that by creating it, however that works. Hashem created it before he created existence. Hashem created the Torah. Then Hashem used the Torah to create the world through his influence, so to speak, his force, his will, his power of creation. By putting that through the Torah, the world's existence came to be.
So my question is that if we have Hashem, if we have a hierarchical structure,
yeah,
we have Hashem,
mm-hmm,
and we have the Torah, is Hashem, is the Torah only one thing that Hashem is bringing into existence, or is Hashem putting everything into the Torah?
Everything that exists is in the Torah.
So then it would be true to say, then there's Hashem, the first commandment of Hashem is one, and then the Torah.
I don't know where you're putting the first commandment there. The first commandment is part of the Torah. It's the core.
You said Hashem is one,
Uh-huh.
encompasses all the other commandments.
For our understanding, if we were to properly understand what those words mean, we would understand all of the Torah.
So wouldn't then be reasonable to assume then that it's over the Torah hierarchically?
It's a
own,
statement.
Or it's just part that happens to be.
It's a statement that encompasses all of the rest of the Torah. Now, each word of Torah encompasses other things.
So it's equally part of the Torah, or it's above the Torah?
It's not above the Torah.
So it's equally part of the Torah. It's just sort of the math that's on, like, it's like the glossary that happens to be at the beginning.
It's not even at the beginning, but yes. Torah starts with Bereshis, which is its own discussion, which I don't know if we're going to get to in here or not, but yeah, that's. But yes, that was the first Hashem statement to us, and this statement is going to contain everything, and it'll be explained.
Right.
But yes, it's all part of the one thing. Call it Torah Kulachada. What you should know, there's the custom is that we stand when we read the Ten Commandments in Shul, right? Mm-hmm. And yet we start standing before that because we want to show that we're not just standing for this, because we want to show these Ten Commandments are not any more important or any more a critical part of the Torah than anything else. So it's really not. So that is important. Okay, so all right. So now this first point over here, this rule number 1, should sound familiar to everybody. Hopefully, this is really the concept of Hashem Echad. Also, the 13. The principal beliefs, the 13 animamins that the Rambam writes, that we should hopefully all be familiar with, and we should be saying them every day. The 13 principles of faith. Rabbi Slatus is giving a class on them too on Wednesdays for women. The first one is that Hashem. Well, a few of these are all really part of this, but the first one is that Hashem ubarayu manig l'chol habarim, that Hashem created and runs everything that exists. This is the core of belief, right? If you don't have this, you have nothing. This has got to be number 1, and that's exactly why it is here at number 1. Okay. Now, just to put this out there, understanding that Hashem is Kadmon v'Nitzchi, that Hashem is before and is forever, is not really something the human mind is capable of understanding. Okay? We live in a finite world, and in our finite world, we only understand things that are finite. We don't understand something that exists beyond the realms of time and space. In our minds, everything is bound by time. We can't understand what it means to not be bound by time. So the reality is, though, that Hashem created time. When Hashem created the world, He created time, right? Which the Maharal writes that time is relative to matter. Right, Einstein came up with that a little bit later, but that's a critical part of our understanding, is that time itself is a creation, and therefore Hashem is beyond that. Not something we can understand. The Rambam writes this is not the kind of thing that you could try to get. It's like Rabbi, the parable I like to use is it's like trying to measure time with a thermometer. Right? We just don't have the tool for it. It's not going to work. You're not going to be able to get it. So let's not try to understand what it means that Hashem is existing beyond time, but we have to believe that. We have to understand. This is all part of belief. These are not the kind of things I'm going to be able to convince people about. This is a belief system. So if you believe it, you have to not necessarily understand it, but you do certainly have to believe it to move forward. So the belief that Hashem is beyond time, time does not play a role in any of Hashem in any way whatsoever. All right. We got to go. We got a funeral today, so we're cutting a little bit short. But it's been a pleasure. Next week we will be off for Tisha B'Av, but the following week we will be on, and we'll see you all then. Have a good one.
Thank you.